Okay, let's get started. Now, if you are new to iCEV, let's begin at the start of once you log in, once you've created your username and password, your login credentials for iCEV. The first page that you are going to see is our Add New Course page. So if you're a veteran, just bear with me for a minute. We're going to walk through this process real quick just to show our new users. Every page where you begin to create your course playlist or edit your lessons or whatever it may be, you're always going to have this blue banner that runs across the top of the screen. And in that blue banner, it's going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to navigate that page. And so from here, we're going to build a course. Now, what we've done as a group is not only do we develop our content, but we also try to make sure our content fits with each state and aligns with each state standards. And then we've tried to build that course and drop it into iCEV for you to automatically click on, so you're not having to pull from the library and what meets your state standards or what you need. And so we've developed these pre-made course playlists for you. And the first thing I'm going to do is give the course a title. So I like to keep it real simple. So I'm going to say second period. Let me get over to health science because I have access to all the subjects. Let's do second period anatomy. So there's my course title. As I mentioned earlier, I am based out of Oklahoma. So right now my pre-made courses are going to show the Oklahoma state standards. And so, but let's say if you're in Nevada, it's going to show up NV20 or Indiana or wherever it may be. And so we're going to click on anatomy, select add course. That course has been added. Now, if you want to create multiple courses at the same time, you just walk through those very same steps I just showed you. And then once you're done, you click finish. Next, the platform will direct you back to your main My Courses page, your main hub of the iCEV platform. And as you can see, that second period anatomy class has dropped down below to all of my other course playlists that I have listed. So from this main page, you can organize your courses. So I always like to bring this one directly back up to the top. And from this My Courses page, you can click on the title and it'll take you directly to the lesson playlist. If you click on the green box with the green arrow, it's going to give you a pop-out box that has all the lessons within the course playlist shown. So you can jump around to lessons without having to go directly into the playlist. This title right here is the title of a lesson. Whichever title or whichever lesson you've most recently viewed is always going to pop up right here. So if you need quick access back to that because you guys have been working on that same lesson for the last 5 days, you don't have to go in and search for it, and you just click on the lesson right there. And then if you click view, it does the same thing by clicking on the title, it takes you to your lesson playlist. And as you can see, all of the lessons are listed. Next to each lesson title, I'm not going to start with getting started with bulb. I'll touch on that here in a little bit and describe to you what that means. But instead, I'm going to select this Body Systems Basics Muscular lesson. We select View, and this takes me directly to the lesson. Now, I've viewed this presentation before, so it's simply asking me, do you want to start where you left off? I'm going to click no, and it's going to take me directly back to the beginning of the PowerPoint. Now, keep in mind, we do have a mixture of PowerPoints and videos for our lessons. Our PowerPoints are very interactive, which I like. So if I go to Objects and then I go to Main Menu, instead of me scrolling through or clicking next 60 different slides, I can simply just click on the pink button that takes me to muscles of the body. That portion of the slide. You can make it big screen for your students, And one thing to note is in your instructional materials directly below the PowerPoint, you have the ability to download that PowerPoint and edit it for your students, and you can share that with your students. So every PowerPoint is downloadable. Moving on to the top of the lesson, here is a key. As I mentioned earlier, the state standards, everything is aligned, but we have also created a lesson plan for each lesson. So if you click on the lesson, it breaks it down, tells you how long the slides are. It basically gives you a full lesson plan. Okay, and you can modify this if you want to download it into a PDF or into Adobe. But it just tells you how it breaks down the lesson, how many days it is, how many slides per day. It gives you additional resources where we use the information that we use to create the lesson. It breaks down the lab activities and how we envision these activities to go. It gives you information about the project. So everything that has to do with this lesson is going to be located in that lesson plan. If we jump back to the lesson, we have a student grade report up here. So a portion of iCEV is you can either use it virtually, or you can use it face-to-face, or you can use it blended environment. And so the course grade report comes in handy when you provide these interactive materials to your students virtually or online through a student license that you can attach to your subscription. And so let's begin with the instructional materials first, though. Okay, so academic grading rubric. This is a rubric that you can provide to your students so they know exactly what the expectations are and what is required of them for this lesson. We have an action plan for the students. There are activity and career. So this is one of the activities. It's called Career Connections. The cool thing about our PowerPoints and videos is usually you'll have a search bar up here. Mine is not popping up for some reason right now, but it's a drop-down menu. And usually with each lesson, I'll show you in just a minute, there's a career interview attached to the lesson. So that's individuals that we went out into the industry, we interviewed them about this specific subject, about their job, what they do, what they like, what they don't like, whatever it is, whatever they would like to tell us about that for students. And then you can have the students complete this activity by using that drop-down menu on that lesson. You can see we have multiple different labeling activities for this lesson. We have a glossary, muscular glossary. We even include a few different projects. What I like about the projects is you can do them face-to-face or you can do them virtually, meaning, okay, the student has to develop a model. Well, they can bring it to class, or they take a picture or a video of it and they can upload it to Google Classroom or whatever learning management system that you use. And so we really try to make them everything user-friendly. All of these are printable activities. And then if you drop down, as well as the assessments, you can print these out and give them to your students in class. But once you drop down to the interactive materials, all of those same activities, projects, assessments are all in an interactive portion down here at the bottom. The Google Classroom integration button is this green chalkboard right here. We did have a session the last couple of days that talked a lot more about learning management system integration with iCEV. So I definitely recommend you checking out those sessions. We're not going to go too deep into it, but this is basically where you would share the lesson to Google Classroom. We also have visibility settings for each instructional material, as well as visibility settings and attempt thresholds for each of the interactive materials. The students are able to see the details of a activity or an assessment if you have this box checked, the show details button. And what I mean by that is if you click on the student notes portion of this, and as a student, let's let it load. Maggie, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so as an interactive portion, as a student, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna enter in, okay, maintaining posture, ingesta and the digestive system, and then I'm gonna roll through these. I'm gonna click submit, yes. And the details of that activity assessment are going to pop up at the end, and it's going to show me what I got right or what I missed or what was incorrect, okay? And so some instructors love to show the show details button, others don't. And so it's completely up to you and what your preference is. We also have the ability to deactivate these activities on a certain date. And so if you only want them open for a week, you can deactivate them at the end on Friday. And then you can also have these grades show up on a course grade report. This was requested because maybe you don't need the notes to be graded. And so you can unclick these and they won't show up on the grade report and won't go to their overall grade. And you don't have to sort through all of that additional grades for this lesson once we get to the course grade report. Again, we're able to add these or share these to Google Classroom if needed, and the students can complete them in that platform as well. The grades for Google Classroom do pass back and forth, and so they will be available to view on Google Classroom and iCEV, which makes it really nice. Canvas and Schoology are a little bit different. If you want them graded with either of those platforms, the iCEV app will have to be downloaded within Schoology or Canvas or other learning management systems. Okay, so at the top of your lesson playlist, again, we have the standard alignments. It breaks down everything for your state, shows you what lessons are, how many days of teaching, all of that, so you can review that once you get into your course playlist. We also have a special populations PDF. This is to help with students, let's say that single parent household, just different populations that maybe need a little bit more attention or a little bit more just attention to what type of learning environment they're in. And then also to the right is where you're able to manage your roster. So if you do have student teacher, or if you have student licenses and you do enroll your students, this is where you would manage the roster for that specific course playlist. Here is your course grade report for those interactive activities and assessments. So once the student has enrolled into your class, if I click view report, the students' names will pop up to the left, and then all of their grades will be across the right under each activity or assessment. As I mentioned the attempt threshold earlier, I do have some instructors that give them multiple attempts, but then they only count their first score, and you can sort the course grade report by first score. If you use a specific gradebook like WinGauge or something else to that effect, you can download the report into Excel document and then copy and paste back and forth. You can also view by specific student. So if there's one student you want to look at, click on their name and only their grades will pop up. And if you don't do percentage, instead you do items, you can change the score mode to reflect that within the course grade report. Okay, inviting students to your course playlist. You saw I clicked on that button. It takes me directly to this 3-step process. You can pull this up in your classroom. You can download the instructions and post it onto any learning management system you're using. You can also print the instructions out and give them to your students. But the key here is that every course playlist that you create, because you will have access to create as many as you want, each course playlist generates its own registration code. And so this is what will enroll that student into specifically that course. And so it's very critical to make sure they have those correct when you are enrolling students. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So as a student, once a student is registered, they are going to be able to see everything that you put onto your course playlist. So right now, if I were to enroll in your class as a student, I am going to see all of these lessons. Nothing is hidden from me. Everything is visible. So that brings me to the settings side of things for your lesson playlist. On the right, the first thing that I always recommend instructors to do is to click on this Show Settings Lesson Visibility. And what that does is it provides a drop-down menu next to each lesson title. And from here, you can manually go in and hide the lesson from the students or make it visible on a certain date, or let's say you have a field trip video that you want to show that day, but you don't want them to see it beforehand. You can go in that morning and just make it visible to students for that specific day. But to make it really easy and you're not having to go in and manually do all of these, we also have a lesson visibility hide all button. So if I click hide all and press OK, everything is going to be hidden from the students right from the get-go, which I like. So let's make this visible to students, and let's make this visible on a specific date. One thing to keep in mind is when you do select the hide all button, it is going to hide all of the PowerPoints and videos. And when I select the visible to students, it's not going to bring up the PowerPoint video. So once you do hide all lessons, you want to go down here and click show all for PowerPoint and video, so that when you do make them visible on a certain date, or you go in and manually make them visible, that PowerPoint and that video will show up consistently. Now, you do have other settings where, let's say you're completely virtual and your students are going to have access, not have access to any of the printable activities. They need everything for the interactive activities. I can select hide all for all the printable activities, and every one of those will be hidden in each lesson. So if we go to basic anatomy and physiology, and I scroll down to the instructional materials, all of my boxes are unchecked right here. So I've hidden those from the students. Now I can still share them to the Google Classroom, and those students will be able to see those as a PDF, but they won't be able to see them on the iCEV side of things. Okay, let's go with that. Let's say that you do not want the students to see the details on anything, and not until, let's say, the end of the semester or the end of the 6 weeks, whatever it is, you can select hide all. And so all those show details checkboxes are going to be hidden as well. And so the students won't be able to see those. So let's give an example of inviting students. Let me show you how that looks. So I'm going to copy this registration code. I'm going to click register. And the first thing the students are going to do, if they've never had an iCEV login before, they're going to enter in that registration code. They'll do a first name, last name. And then it's very important that students enter in their school email addresses correctly. Simply because, especially in Google Classroom, the grade info won't pass back and forth if they're not entered in correctly. And so just making sure that the K-12 or the US and everything is in the right spot is key. They'll create a username and password. They'll provide some security questions and then click submit, and they will be automatically enrolled into that class. So if I jump over to a student side, the student side, I've enrolled into that anatomy class. Let's pretend that was the one I just did. But let's say I'm in 2 classes that uses iCEV. I'm going to go up here to add new course or certification. Now I'm going to paste that registration code, click submit. And there's that second period anatomy class that I was just looking at. Now, as the student, I'm going to click view. And you can see that my visibility settings are in place. So I was only able to show them the first 2. If I click on view lesson, they're going to be able to see the PowerPoint in the video because I made sure all those were visible. And then you can see I have hidden all of the instructional materials or the printable resources. So everything that's left is the interactive materials. And so let's look at this basic anatomy and physiology vocabulary. Okay, I'm going to roll through this really quick just to show you. This is simple drag and drop. This is how most of our vocab is set up. And so scroll through, put a couple more. Ooh, this was a long one. Okay, I'm going to click finish. Yes, I did not attempt 19 of them. Okay, so here is where they would normally see the show details. So what I got right, what I got incorrect, but instead I hid all of those from the students, so they're only seeing their total score. So I'll return back to the lesson. And I can continue to review, look at my assessments. Here's that drop-down menu that I was discussing with you earlier about the career interviews within that subject area. At the top of their main courses page, they're able to view their profile where it shows their username, it shows their email address, they can change their password, and modify anything that they need to within their profile. Let's say they forgot their password, you're able to change it as well. And then they're also able to look at their course grade report for that course by clicking on that main button that's on the lesson playlist. So they'll click view report. There's that attempt of in the lesson that I just completed. If they were to click on this arrow, it would take them to the details. So then they're able to review again if needed. And then if they take the test multiple times, all of their scores will pop up right there. So they're able to see all of that. Let's jump back to the teacher side of things. We go back to the My Courses page. I am going to go over to my drop down arrow right here because I want to look at my course grade report to see that student's grades. I can either select the student or view all. There's that grade report. Here's the arrow to look at the details so you as an instructor can see what they missed, what they got right, so you can decide what trends there are in the class, what you may need to cover a little bit more, whatever it may be. And then if you click on roster management, either at the bottom of your My Courses page or within the drop-down menu of the course, from here, you're able to see the student's username. You're able to reset their password. So let's say they forgot it. And then you're also able to remove students, let's say at the end of the year or right before you begin a new year, you want to completely clear out your roster and you can remove students that way. Let's go back to the lesson playlist. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do provide pre-made course playlists for you that meet your state standards. But let's say you're looking for something specific, or you are going to be absent one day and you want your students and your sub to go over something a little bit different maybe, or fun, or just something, and you need a little bit of assistance. So as within your subscription, you will have access to our whole iCEV library. So when I clicked on customize this course in the top right-hand corner of the course lesson playlist, it takes me directly to the library where I can adjust my course title or edit it. And then to the right are the current selected lessons within that course playlist. So from here, I can drag and drop these lessons. I can specifically remove them from the playlist because maybe it's something that you didn't want to include or didn't need to include. I can also preview the lesson. And within this preview, you can watch the full video, review the full PowerPoint, or you can just read the description. It provides you the duration, what the goals are. It also showcases the career interviews within that lesson. Now I'm ready to add new lessons or see what else the library has to offer. And as you can see, agricultural science is popping up first on mine because I have access to all the subjects. But if I click on subject and I scroll down to health science, all the content that we have created for health science is broken up into multiple different categories. And so I like searching by subject. I think it's a lot easier for me. And so if I want to go to anatomy and physiology, human development, that's what I'm interested in. It's going to show me all of the lessons that we have within that subject or within that category. And so I can add those lessons, and they're all going to drop to the bottom of the current lesson playlist. I can move them around. So if I wanted to bring fetal and infant human development right up to the top, I can. Always clear your results. It's a little bit easier. Sometimes it'll get confused, like it'll search within a subject, and we don't want that to happen. But let's say I just wanted to look up the word muscle. As you can see, it's bringing up everything from our other subject areas, but as an example, it's showing you that you can also search by keyword. Then you can also search alphabetically. So if I just health science and I was thinking muscles or muscular, there's medical terms, terminology, and so it'll pop up those as well when you're searching alphabetically. Always make sure to click finish at the end, and it'll save what you just adjusted, and it brings you directly back to your My Courses page. When we develop new content or we have new features or new updates, we always post this yellow banner up here showing you what updates we have or features or whatever it may be. If we do have new content, we always highlight that new content by saying new item next to that lesson title. And so we're constantly growing our content, figuring out resources, those types of things. You may have noticed from the beginning and right now that there is a little blue ribbon attached to this course that we've created. Well, this little blue ribbon shows that it is a certification. So within iCEV, we host roughly 17 different certifications or industry certifications. For example, one of those is the Southwest Airlines Professional Communication Certification. And the cool thing about our certifications that we host is, one, it's industry approved, industry reviewed. It's backed by the industry. That's what the industry wanted. And they used our content to create the certification for them. And so all of these lessons that you see right here are not only broken up into this specific certification course, but they're also will be shown in multiple lesson playlists that you had just added to your My Courses page, because we like to sprinkle these in throughout each one because they are applicable. And so we consider this one of our soft skills industry certifications. And we did do a session on that the last couple days, so I definitely recommend you viewing that session as well if you want to learn a little bit more about certifications. But basically, the students will review the lesson, they'll take the final assessment at the end of each lesson, and once all of those are completed, the 100 question certification will pop up right here. You'll be able to proctor that exam for that student. They are able to pass it. Well, they have to have a 70 to pass, and then they will receive a certificate in the mail from us and, for example, Southwest Airlines, showing that they completed that. But the cool thing about the certifications is it also helps the students showcase what they are learning. So they're able to add these to their resumes later on, whether they're throughout college and for job opportunities later on. And so that is one unique thing that we do host on iCEV. To view those certifications specifically, or to create a certification course specifically, you would just click on the add new course like you were going in to create a new course playlist. I'm going to drop down the health science, and then I click on the certification playlist tab, and there are all the pre-made certification course playlists that we offer within that subject area. One other thing to note, and I'm not sure if you caught it, but we have this lesson called Getting Started with Bulb. Bulb is an online digital portfolio company. What that means is now students have the ability to create a digital portfolio that they can utilize either throughout high school, throughout college, and then getting a job. So it's like an online resume in a way. And we have partnered with Bulb for this spring semester. We're trying it out and seeing if our teachers and our students like this. But it's a great way for students to showcase what they're learning in class, especially in this virtual learning environment. So students are able to take pictures and upload those pictures to Bulb, or upload video to Bulb. They're also able to provide audio over a subject. So even if they upload a couple of PDFs that they developed and then talk through those PDFs with audio. And so it's a really cool, unique thing that maybe you might be interested with some of your students to look into. But this lesson just basically navigates the student as well as the instructor on how to use Bulb, how it works with iCEV, and what it offers to that student.